Welcome back to the channel. In today's aviation news recap, there's focus on Hawaiian Airlines and updates regarding grounded aircraft. Condor has taken delivery of a new aircraft, and where I want to begin today's proceedings is with Southwest, who are cutting routes, leaving airports amid persistent 737 MAX delays that are hurting its overall operation. During its first quarter 2024 results, it has certainly been the week for these to appear. Southwest published a net loss of USD 231 million, with first quarter operating revenues standing at USD 6.3 billion. However, some of the more telling difficulties came from an inability to acquire Boeing jets on time, thus impacting its also ability to offer a robust schedule. Southwest says that achieving its financial goals is one of the more immediate objectives. This is also deemed imperative. However, with further delivery delays for 737 MAX aircraft, Southwest forecasts a pretty turbulent next few years. The US carrier says it has been continuously adjusting its schedule and attempting to find ways to mitigate the losses felt from the delayed deliveries. However, Southwest is more than aware there's only so much it can really do to limit the negative ramifications from this. Southwest forecasts considerable operational and financial impact from the continued delays, likely to stretch into 2025, if not even longer. The airline has already been forced to slash its forecast continuously because of not only the escalating but also worsening situation at Boeing. Southwest used the Q1 result to announce its plans regarding the existing and future fleet, making further adjustments. Again, feels very much like deja vu, as this is not the first time Southwest has adjusted its forecast. The airline says it expects just 20 737-8 deliveries across the calendar year, with 35 aircraft retirements. The retirements will primarily focus on 737NGs, with the bulk being for the 737-700s, and then you'll have just 4 737-800s. However, certainly the more telling tale is the reduced forecast airline deliveries. The previous plan was 46 MAX deliveries, but we know Boeing will not be able to meet that. While delivery delays of course steal the show, the carrier will be forced to retain existing aircraft destined for retirement longer than expected. 2024 was also earmarked as the year Southwest would take on the 737-7. However, because of the difficulties at Boeing, there is no longer a firm timeline for when certification will occur for this variant. Although I'm sure many of you would argue that a timeline for certification of the Dash 7 never seemed all that firm. Because of this, Southwest is really in the dark on when it will be able to enter this type into service. It doesn't stop just with delayed deliveries. Southwest is now being forced to cancel routes, make adjustments to its schedule, and at worst, leave 4 airports across the United States as part of what is a broader plan to slow growth. The carrier says that it'll end service from the following airports effective August 4th, 2024. Feel free to take a moment to pause the video so you're able to see the 4 locations. And yes, while the airline removes itself from these aforementioned markets, further changes are expected to be implemented. Southwest says it will reduce flights across Chicago and Atlanta in response to the delivery delays. Southwest joins a long list of other airlines that have been forced to cut routes for various reasons. But in the case of Southwest, of course, if they are forced to leave markets, they'll look towards the least in-demand ones, and the ones obviously that are not as profitable. On to the next story. Hawaiian Airlines, who have been impacted by the Pratt Whitney GTF engine crisis, hurting their A321neo aircraft, have provided an update. As the airline reported its Q1 results, they said they hope to have all A321neos back in revenue service within the next few weeks. In the Q1 earnings call, the Hawaiian Airlines CEO highlighted that current engine availability is making a service return possible. Additionally, engines away from the company that were sent for overhauls are slated to also be returned. Hawaiian Airlines is counting its blessings. The airline is more than aware of the position it's in in, which is actually more favourable than that of many other airlines being impacted by the GTF saga. It certainly doesn't take long to go through some of my more recent videos, having a look at some of the leading stories being airlines cancelling routes rather than, in the case of Hawaiian, expecting these aircraft to come back. It does know that there is still a shortage of engines, and that's why it is remaining cautiously optimistic about its future forecast. It is aware that at worst, the aircraft could be grounded again later down the line. It is an incredibly volatile situation, and like I said, Hawaiian Airlines are pleased at least that they are moving in a more positive direction. As I alluded to, airlines worldwide have been forced to ground A321neo aircraft, A220s, A320neos, and more, just like Hawaiian. However, the varying degree of groundings has been more than present, with truly each airline battling it in different manners. Company have, in some cases, been forced to, say, reduce flying to cope with the grounding. Meanwhile, the reduction in flying for others has correlated to the cancellation of routes, and even the postponement of new service launches. Some airlines have also been forced to extend the leases of existing planes to cope with the lack of capacity, but ultimately it's just not been pretty, and this has affected all kinds of airlines from right around the world, whether it's Hawaiian or a lot of the focus has been on Air New Zealand, maybe over to Spirit. As for Hawaiian, well, they reported a $137.6 million loss during the first quarter. It can take comfort at least in knowing that it's not the only company to have experienced something similar, as several other airlines in the US, for various reasons, posted something similar. The Honolulu-based carrier cited the A321neo grounding as a reason why, but it did at least see revenues increase 5.4% to USD $645 million, but that was in line with operating expenses also rising. Onto the final story, and Condor has officially taken delivery of its first Airbus A320neo. This is another important step in the carrier's fleet modernization efforts, which have certainly been at the forefront of the company's focus in the last few years. The addition of the A320neo joins an existing commitment to the next generation Airbus aircraft, including, and most notably, the A330neo, which was acquired in the last few years. Condor's commitment to the A320 family on a whole has lasted decades, with the aircraft being a very valuable part of their network across Europe. But now they realize as they move towards a new era that they need to move towards an efficient alternative, and that is in the new engine option. Delivery was celebrated in Toulouse and delivered to the company on a lease from Aviation. This is a leading aircraft lessor, and they're responsible for a pretty significant portion of the global flying fleet of jets. The A320neos are configured with 180 seats at Condor, with deployment slated for May the 15th, with service to Palma de Mallorca. While the A320neo, again, steals the show for the headlines, the company is also awaiting its first A321neo. These next-generation aircraft are expected to be important in replacing some of your A320ceo family jets and even up to the 757-300s. Ultimately, as I touched on at the beginning of this segment, the fleet has been a massive focus in the last few years. Condor wants to become more efficient and also streamlined wherever possible. We saw that through the 767 retirement, and pretty soon they'll have one of the youngest fleets in Europe, and they hope to build upon that and enjoy the many successes too. That's going to conclude today's aviation news recap. If you have got any thoughts, let me know down below in the comments. Thanks a lot for your support. Stay tuned, same place, same time tomorrow, for your latest industry developments. And we'll fly.